Hey guys, welcome back to my yearly tradition of doing the games of my favorite games of each year, in this case 2021. And as always, I'm a little bit late to the party. As some of you guys know, I typically buy all the quote-unquote new releases at the end of the year, during Black Friday or holiday sales. So 2021 was not any different. So I give myself a couple, the early parts of the next year, of the new year, to beat some of the games, and I did the same this year with some great 2021 titles that I really enjoyed. So without further ado, let's just get started. I'm going to do a top 15 just because I had a little bit more time to play some games. Not all the games are AAA, obviously. You're not going to hear every single major game out there. It's just it's a personal list, obviously, of games that I thought were great. And this is my top 15 that it's brought to you by Oishi, which is a Brazilian-Japanese wheat beer with ginger and orange peels flavored. I think it's brewed in some brewery in Chicago, so pretty tasty. Yeah, let's get started with my top 15 games of 2021. Cheers. So at number 15, I have a game that I thought was going to finish a little bit higher, but it didn't. And it's a game that I have an impressions video that I did recently, and that game is none other than Mario Golf Super Rush for the Nintendo Switch. Yeah, this game disappointed me a little bit. It's my least favorite Mario Golf game of all the Mario Golf games that I played to date. And I didn't like the speed golf aspect of it. Again, I have a full-blown impressions video if you guys want to hear my extended thoughts. It's not a bad game. It's actually a very fun game, and has the best graphics and performance, obviously being a Switch game. But in my opinion, it falls short. It falls short when compared to other previous entries in the Mario Golf games. So Mario Golf Super Rush at number 15. It's the last at the bottom, if you will. At number 14, it's a digital game. Don't have a physical copy, obviously. I played this on Steam, and I have here by the way, my Chromebook here as a cheat sheet with all the games shown here. Yeah, at number 14 we have Turnip Boy Commits Tax Evasion, which is an old school Zelda-like, a Link to the Past, old school Zelda action adventure game, over the top view. It's a tribute to old school Zelda games that I really enjoyed. The game is fairly short. But it's very charming, and it has a unique sense of humor, and some interesting characters, and it's surprisingly interesting story as well. So if you guys have are itching to play a kind of like a modern indie Zelda, classic Zelda clone, look no farther than Turnip Boy Commits Tax Evasion, which is a game that can be purchased for fairly cheap on Steam. So it was a very enjoyable time in a fairly short game, so I highly recommend it for you guys to try this game. At number 13, we have back to physical releases. This is another Nintendo Switch release that it was very fun to have and play, and that game is Cruisin' Blast for the Nintendo Switch. I'm a pretty big fan of the cruising games, especially the Nintendo 64 cruising games. So Cruisin' Blast was a game that I was eagerly anticipating, and I just love the over-the-top, crazy, arcade racing that the cruising games offer. And Cruisin' Blast is no different. It has crazy courses with wicked, jumps and crazy vehicles. You can ride as a dinosaur, helicopter, and then of course your regular, racing, type of cars like a Corvette, like a Camaro, the EV Hummer. A lot of variety in terms of unlockables. So Cruisin' Blast was a pleasant surprise for me on the Nintendo Switch. And I'm really glad it got a new game in 2021, and hopefully the series keeps delivering with further entries into the future. At number 12, we're back to the digital games. I played this through Xbox Series S via Game Pass, and it's a game that I'm actually right at the end, and I need I need a push to finish the game, and that game is Outriders, a online third-person action loot-based, RPG published by Square Enix. And it's a game that It's one of those games that I don't think I would have bought it myself, but since it was on Game Pass on day one, I decided to play it along with some other friends here on YouTube, namely Leo the Funny Nerd, I think Victor, and also VG Mashup joined the fun in an online game. I'll probably go back and do a full impressions video once I beat the game. I think I only have a couple missions left. Unfortunately, I was busy, and I think Leo and VG Mashup ended up completing the game. But I'll probably go back just to see what happens at the end, because the story was surprisingly interesting actually in this game. But yeah, it's a fun third-person shooter, loot-based game that it's very addicting. You're always looking for the best gear. So I had a lot of fun time playing Outriders. I know it was criticized by a lot of people, but personally I enjoyed the game, and I think that's all that matters. So Outriders at number 12. At number 11, I have another back to the physical games. This is a favorite of mine that was released in 2013. However, the vote itself counts towards Bowser's Fury. So I'm talking about Super Mario 3D World and Bowser's Fury. In Bowser's Fury, despite being kind of like the side or spin-off game that is part of this package, it's actually a really well put together game that deserves a lot of praise. And in fact, I was left wishing that the game was a little bit longer actually. I had a ton of fun playing Bowser's Fury. Great graphics, great characters, your typical 3D platforming goodness delivered by Nintendo. So you can't go wrong with Bowser's Fury. It has a very unique gameplay style that it's more akin to the Super Mario 64 and Sunshine games. So I had a lot of fun. I have an impressions video on that game, so make sure you check it out. But yeah, Bowser's Fury made it to 11 on my list. So before we get into the top 10, another sip. Cheers, guys. So at number 10, I'm going to go with a digital, it's a PC game that I play through Steam, the Steam platform. And it's on my to-do list to make an impressions video because I beat the game recently. And that game is Game Deck, which is a CRPG that it's narrative driven, kind of similar to, I was looking for a fix after playing Disco Elysium, which is a CRPG that I absolutely loved. It's a narrative driven kind of like investigation CRPG, and Game Deck follows the steps of Disco Elysium. Now, before you get too excited, the game is nowhere near as good as Disco Elysium, but then again, Disco Elysium is like it's like a masterpiece in its own genre, right? But Game Deck was surprisingly fun. The game, it's on the short side, and it does suffer from a little bit of some writing problems, some pacing problems overall. But I plan to do a full impressions video to discuss a little bit more about Game Deck. But nevertheless, I had a really good time. It's a PC exclusive game. It's an indie CRPG that it was very enjoyable, enjoyable characters, and surprisingly interesting story. So yeah, keep this game in your radar in case you're interested for trying out another indie CRPG that is narrative driven, and it's also part investigation, kind of like Disco Elysium. So at number 9, we're going back to another physical game that I played during the Halloween month, and that game is Tormented Souls, which is actually my first physical PS5 game that I purchased. And yeah, this game was a very pleasant surprise. As you guys know, I'm a huge fan of the Resident Evil series, especially the survival horror original Resident Evil games with the tank controls and fixed camera angles. And this game right here, Tormented Souls, is really an ode and a tribute to those old school Resident Evil games. So this is a game that it was right down my alley. I was very impressed by the production values, considering this is an indie game developed by a Chilean studio, if I'm not mistaken. So surprisingly interesting, great graphics, a good pacing, a little bit on the obtuse side, in terms of the difficulty, and some puzzles that are really hard to solve. But that's part of the, I guess, charm of the old school Resident Evil games, and Tormented Souls delivers on that end. So very happy with the game and very pleasantly surprised. So Tormented Souls ranks at number 9. At number 8, we have none other than Halo Infinite, a very long-awaited game for a lot of Xbox fans. Myself, I'm kind of like a new Xbox fan, if you will. I've never owned an Xbox console until last gen, when I got the Xbox One. So some catching up to do on my end regarding the Halo franchise, but I was tempted to give Halo Infinite a shot, and I was very pleasantly surprised. I started with the multiplayer, obviously, via Game Pass, and it was fun. I put a lot of hours into the multiplayer. Now, admittedly, I have not finished the single-player campaign for Halo Infinite, but I had to put it there on my list at number 8 because so far, from what I've played, it's a very, very solid first-person game. It has an open-world mechanic where you can explore freely, undertake side missions, if you will, and then, obviously, you progress through the main goals, through the main story missions at your own pace if you want to. So a lot of positive things for Halo Infinite. A very, very solid, well put together first-person shooter with great graphics. So definitely looking forward to keep playing that game and enjoying it for what it is, a AAA experience from Microsoft. Let's see, at number 7, another game courtesy of Game Pass service. At number 7, we have Scarlet Nexus, which is a JRPG. It's an action-based JRPG published by Bandai Namco, sorry, I got mixed up there. But yeah, it's a very interesting, fast-paced action game that, I do have an impressions video discussing this game in detail. You can pick 2 characters. The story is very similar, whether the character you pick. There were some kind of like points that the game dragged on a little bit too much, so this is by no means the perfect JRPG. However, I was very, very surprised by the graphics of the game. The art style is wonderful, the colors in the game, and it has a very interesting action-based combat system where you have to keep you can keep switching your characters and use different skills and effects based on the party members that are on your party, obviously. So Scarlet Nexus, a very solid JRPG. It just doesn't excel like some standouts out there, but it's a very solid one, and it's on Game Pass, so it was a fun exploring this particular game. Then at number 6, another JRPG that I beat recently, and I have to make an impressions video. So yeah, I have here IX Monstrum Nox, which is, as you guys know, I'm a huge fan of the E series, so I'm looking forward to making an impressions video to talk about this game in detail. I skipped a few games. I still have to play IX 7 and IX 8, which are 2 other games that are based on that modern IX engine, if you will, the new engine by Nihon Falcom, but decided to play IX 9 on purpose so that I can perhaps include it on my top games of 2021, and sure enough, as you guys can see here, I have it at number 6. It was a very fun action-based game, not among my favorite IX games, I have to admit, but a very interesting story that kept me hooked until the very end. And yeah, it was an interesting game. There are some things that the game can improve, but I'm going to go in full detail on a future upcoming impressions video for this game. So IX 9 at number 6, love the series, and I can't wait to play 7 and 8, which are on my to play list as of now. At number 5, speaking of RPGs, this is not a JRPG, but it's a tactical RPG with procedurally generated characters and stories, and this game is Wildermyth, which I have an impressions video on this that I just sung the praises for this game. It's an indie strategy-based RPG that it's really creative. It has a lot of interesting components. As I mentioned, the procedurally generated characters and story make up for a very, very unique and tailored experience to the player. Your characters in the game and the party members, they kind of like age together and they evolve together. So there's this feeling of just you growing along with the game as you play along the different campaigns in the game. And to top that, the game has a very interesting tactical and strategy I guess gameplay where it's just very fun and addicting, and it's a game that I'm looking forward to play a little bit more, put more time into other campaigns. You know, the game keeps getting updated with different campaigns, so I loved everything about Wildermyth to the point, you know, it's on my top 5 games of 2021. So highly recommend it if you guys haven't played it. I think so far it's a PC exclusive. I played this on Steam, but again, highly recommend it. It's a very, very addicting game if you guys are into strategy RPGs. At number 4, we're getting into, you know, inside that top 5. So at number 4, a game that I made an impressions video recently, and that game is Death's Door, developed by Acid Nerve. Also played this on PC via Steam, actually via GeForce Now, which is a streaming service. So yeah, very impressed with this game. I know a lot of people had this game at the top of their 2021 list. So it's one of those indie, I guess, darling, you know, games that, you know, it's full of praise, and rightfully so. I mean, the gameplay is very, very addicting, very tight. The game is very challenging. You know, it's kind of like a Souls-like in terms of the combat and the gameplay. You know, you have to have really good timing. You know, you have to avoid getting hit by the bosses and the enemies because they deal a lot of damage. So even though it's on the challenging side, it's a very rewarding game, you know, once you get through it. So Death's Door has a very unique story, characters, and just overall presentation. And it was I was very pleasantly surprised by this game, to the point that, you know, it made it to my number 4 spot on my top games list. So highly impressed by Death's Door, highly recommend it for you guys out there. At number 3, I'm gonna be, I guess, cheating a little bit, but hey, this is my list, right? This game was originally released in 2020. However, in 2021, the Enhanced Edition was released for the PS5, or should I say the Director's Cut version. And that game is Ghost of Tsushima, the Director's Cut for the PS5. I purposely held on buying the PS4 version of this game. So to me, this is a brand new game. So hence why, you know, I'm including this on my list of 2021 top games. And man, I have to tell you guys, Ghost of Tsushima is one of those AAA games that, from a visual standpoint, is going to leave you with your, you know, with your jaw in the ground. The graphics, the gameplay in this game are just solid. It's a fantastic game. If you guys haven't played this yet, get it on the PS5. You know, the graphical improvements, the resolution, the performance, the frame rate. There's everything. It's improved, and it includes all the DLC content, including the Iki Island expansion, which I plan to play soon. So needless to say, I have an impressions video for Ghost of Tsushima. So if you want to hear my extended thoughts, make sure you check out my video. But you know, make no mistake, Ghost of Tsushima is definitely one of the best PlayStation exclusive games out there. So it definitely warrants the purchase of a PS4 or PS5 just to play this game. It's so much fun, action-based, very challenging, but very rewarding, with a solid story and characters. So Ghost of Tsushima Director's Cut for the PS5 gets the number 3 spot. At number 2, I had some issues here because I almost gave the Game of the Year award to this game. However, there were some things that I was a little bit frustrated that I will expand upon on a future impressions video. I just beat this game. In fact, the reason why it took me a while to make this, you know, top games of 2021 video was because I wanted to finish this game in order to record this video. And this game is none other than Metroid Dread for the Nintendo Switch. Man, every time there's a 2D, you know, side-scrolling Metroid game announced, you know, I get very hyped because that's my preference for Metroid games. You know, side-scrolling, classic, you know, gameplay, and Metroid Dread delivers in every front. So again, I want to reserve my full impressions for a dedicated video on this, but let me just say that Metroid Dread is one of the best Metroid games out there, side-scrolling. The Nintendo Switch, you know, does a perfect job of just, you know, providing a good graphical, you know, and performance-based Metroid experience. So again, I want to reserve my impressions until I make a dedicated video, but make no mistake, Metroid Dread is a fantastic game. If you own a Nintendo Switch, this is a must-have. A little bit on the challenging side, but, you know, just a very impressive experience. that I will expand upon on a future video. So yeah, Metroid Dread at number 2 for the Nintendo Switch. And at number 1, it's a game that I've been singing the praises for a long time. Again, I was considering giving Metroid Dread the number 1 spot, but I had to go back to this game, and I had to make it justice, because in the games, you know, for me, I put a lot of value in the games that impress me. So, you know, Death's Door, for example, you know, I have a lot of praise for that game. Wildermyth, you know, at number 5, Death's Door at number 4. In the games that make a good impression on me, have a lot of value for me. And so I decided to go number 1 with this game right here, The Forgotten City, which I played this originally on the Xbox Series S via Game Pass, and I just got this on the mail today. Decided to purchase the physical version just to support the great developers of this game. And yeah, this will warrant another playthrough on the PlayStation 5. This is the PS5 version right here. And yeah, The Forgotten City, I have an impressions video dedicated to it. It's really hard to talk about this game. There's a lot of it's just a weird game overall, but it's basically a first-person narrative-driven adventure game that takes you back in time to this forgotten city. And it's a time loop game, it's a investigation game, it's a narrative-driven game. So many elements. You have to talk to a lot of NPCs. There is combat, but the focus of the game is not the combat. And I think that was one of the things that really impressed me. And then the time loop mechanic is it's just handled beautifully in this game. Let me just put it that way. So I'm not gonna take any more time. If you guys are interested, I'm not gonna even say go watch my impressions video. I would say go play this game. If you guys have Game Pass, play it on Game Pass. If you don't, just buy this game. It's a fantastic game, and you know, props to the developers, which is Modern Storyteller. You know, they developed a mod for Skyrim years back, and then decided to make the full-blown game right here, The Forgotten City. Again, if you guys have the opportunity to play this game, I highly recommend it. The story is fantastic, the characters, the gameplay, everything just made for a very memorable experience, and therefore it's my number 1 game of 2021. Sorry. And with that being said, I have some games here, guys, that, you know, I just want to show. Resident Evil Village, you guys know me, I'm a huge Resident Evil fan. I haven't had the time to play this because I want to beat Resident Evil 7 before I move on into Resident Evil 8 Village. But I just wanted to show that because I know a lot of people here on my channel know that I'm a Resident Evil, you know, super fan, and you know, that's one of the reasons why I haven't played this game and why it's not on my top list. And similarly, you know, games like Pokemon Snap, which is a 2021 release, you know, I'm eager to play this game, but I just didn't have the time to play this and other 2021 games. But that's just an example of me just lacking the time to play all these great games. But hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. These are my top games of 2021. Thank you for watching, and thanks for your patience. Me releasing this game in April of 2022. But yeah, cheers, and hopefully we will see you next year with top games of 2022. See you guys. Cheers.